All right, we're going to call this meeting of the Burlington Development Review Board to order. We are going to have to change up the agenda a little bit because we only have 4 people here, and Jeff Hand is recused on what's item 1, a consent agenda, 50 Lakeside Avenue, so we would not have a quorum on that item. So we're going to delay that. We're going to move that to the end at this point to see if a 5th member shows up so we can have a quorum on that. But as of now, we have a quorum for public hearing item number 1, 20-0362DT, 86 North Union. And so unless there's any other changes to the schedule that I'm not aware of, Scott?
Well, anticipating your question about the agenda generally, and this is posted online and let you know, but for the hearing, the 3638 South Union has requested deferral. Right. So you can act on that next, I guess.
Sure, we'll take that up in the order. But is anyone here for 3638 South Union? No? Seeing none? Okay. So we'll take that up in the order. So the first item is 86 North Union. Is the applicant here? Yes. Do you want to come up? So if I could, if anybody wants to speak on this item, could they raise their right hand? No, yep. And do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth under pains and penalty of perjury?
Yeah, we do. I do.
All right, great.
So can we start with a procedural matter?
You can start with what you'd like. You're the applicant.
Given the nature of this being an appeal of an adverse determination, we've got a very small number of board members here this afternoon. So we would like to request to continue this so we have an opportunity to present this to
the full board?
a fuller board.
Okay. I see, before I say anything or ask the board their positions on this, Kim, you represent the city. What say you?
I would check in with staff to see if there's any concern, but when would it be available to the next, when are we talking for the next available?
I believe there's room available April 21 or again in May. The only comment I would have as to deferral is we don't want to get into a situation where we're renewing or executing a new lease the same number, which is typically in May, right? So would April work for a deferral date?
That April 21st is school vacation week, so that could present.
Allie, do you know what we have on for the first meeting in April?
It's pretty full, but I think we can bump out the one at the.
We won't.
What's that?
We won't take long.
What was that?
We won't take long.
Okay.
Well,
Which April are you looking?
so it would be a
April
request
7.
to defer to the April 7th meeting. Thoughts?
Zariah won't be here
I
for
won't be
that
on the board
meeting.
anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty important issue, and I think that the appellant should have the right to have a full board here for a full deliberation.
I don't have a strong feeling. I mean, I'm a little concerned. I can't recall who was here for the first consideration of this. I think the 4 of us were at least.
Yep.
Maybe
Brad
Brad.
was. Yeah.
Well, let me try this. I'm looking at the March 17 agenda. I see 2 items on it.
So would
So
March
if it's just about
17th
attendance, then seemingly the 17th would make sense.
The goal is a more full board, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that'd be fine with me.
I mean, my opinion on it is, I think, in general, we don't want to get into the position of continuance based on the number or composition of the DRB members present. I think we're all very fair and honest and open. I do, in this context, understand the request, given the complexity of the legal issues. And while a board member who is not at the hearing can review the proceedings and undertake to vote, I think given our recent practice of trying to deliberate after meetings, it is probably procedurally easiest, given that the city doesn't seem to have an objection, to grant the continuance until the March 17th.
March 17, so
March
we
17
just
meeting.
issue an amended agenda to put this on.
Any objections to that? No. All right. So we should vote?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we move to grant the request and continue this to the March 17th DRB meeting.
I'll second.
Favor? Opposed? None? All right. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
And next item is 3638 South Union. Paul and Karen Mayer. Is the applicant here? No?
They're not here, they requested deferral.
Right, understood. Is anyone here in the audience to speak on this item? Nope, all right. Scott, they had requested deferral indefinitely, time certain?
Time certain, and it would be, it was the May 19th meeting.
Do you want to make a motion on this one?
Sure, I'll move that on 20-0658CU 3638 South Union, we defer to the May, what's the date again? 19th date.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Any opposed? None? All right. And the last item, well, there's no more items on our public hearing. Next item is under Certificate of Appropriateness. This is 70 Pearl Street. Request for Certificate of Appropriateness, 20-0656-CA.
We're here.
All right. Do us a favor. Is there anyone in the audience here to speak in addition to the applicants on this application? If you're interested in speaking, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under pains and penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're looking for?
All right. I'm John Alden. This is Roger Dickinson and our client Rick Bowe.
Could you speak into the microphone for me? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
And my ears never came back from vacation, so if I ask you to repeat, that's
Further into the mic, like really right into that.
all right. That's dangerous, giving me a mic.
Don't worry.
John Alden with Scott and Partners Architects, Roger Dickinson with Lamoureux and Dickinson, the traffic engineers, and our client Rick Bove. We are seeking an adjustment to the number of rooms previously proposed in our combined hotel and apartment building project. And staff felt that that was sufficient to warrant a re-examination of the parking waiver. It's my understanding from the staff report that really nothing else in the project, as it may have been tweaked a little bit, really requires a review, but the parking waiver does, because we changed some of the conditions upon which the waiver was granted. So that's why we're here. We're happy to review the numbers. We can explain the whole, what's going on, but essentially Rick's marketing research has determined that it's going to be better for him if he has more bedrooms in his apartment building, and our research on the hotel suggested that the rooms should all be a little bigger, so consequently we're not changing the hotel shell at all, but so you get fewer rooms. and it all sugars off actually with a net reduction in the parking demand, which is good because some people were nervous about that. So we think this is actually going to work out for everybody on all fronts. We no longer have an issue with the number of parking spaces or vehicles that's required to be parked on site. The shared parking analysis that Roger has done shows that our total parking demand in a shared scenario is less than the number of spots that we have. The only complicating factor is that during the day, Rick has his negotiation with the city to acquire the lot has him keeping 30 parking spaces available for city use during the day, 8 to 5. So in addition to solving the normal parking requirements that we have to solve to make the site work for the project, we also have to accommodate that agreement with the city and show that we will maintain 30 available parking spaces from 8 to 5. So that's also part of the traffic analysis and the parking analysis, and that special time period has been highlighted for you on the traffic and parking analysis that Roger did with some editorial in red explaining how we are reading the chart, and hopefully you saw that. So I don't have any additional comments. I thought the staff report was perfectly adequate in going through our project changes, and that the comments that they made were all fine. We have no issues with those, but we are here to clarify anything or answer questions that you have.
If you wouldn't mind, Roger,
Yes.
if you would just walk us through your shared parking calculations, just so that I see the plan, I see the annotations, but I would appreciate just some testimony explaining it to me.
Certainly. For the board, I'm looking at the spreadsheet that I'll be working from as I speak here. So the Victoria Place, 34 units there, that was approved for 18 spaces. And that's existing. The George Street Lofts, which is the senior housing, I believe, 20 units, that stays the same. Now that is the item or the land use that is requires the 50% waiver, because normally the parking ratio for that is 2 spaces per unit, and we are requesting a waiver down to 1 parking space per senior unit. The hotel at 78 rooms, and the normal parking ratio for that is 3/4 of a space per room. Our contact with some of the surrounding hotels indicates that many of their, or a large percentage of their customers, patrons, arrive not by car, but by other modes, transit, walking, taxi, and don't necessarily require parking. So that we calculated requires 47 spaces. And then we have the Vermont State Employees Credit Union requiring 2 spaces. So we have a total of 85 spaces, basically without any shared parking. When we apply hourly ratios from the Urban Land Institute, we go into the that begins to calculate the credit that's obtained by the shared parking. The idea that commercial uses during the day need parking during that time period, residential, peaks at night, the hotel peaks at night as well. And so these, working our way through the hourly ratios on a weekday, typical weekday, we come up with a peak demand again, it's overnight, between 12 and 4 a.m. of 83 spaces. We actually have a total of 86 spaces, actual spaces that are going to be provided. As John mentioned, during the day, when there's the requirement that 30 spaces be available to the public for public use, the parking demand of these uses, the peak of that is 53 spaces during the 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock morning hour. And that goes down from there, starts to come back up around 5 p.m. or so to 48 spaces. But that stays below 53, which is basically gives us 33 spaces available for use by the public during that time period, during the day. So that's basically the shared parking calculations that we performed for the project, updated for the reduced number of hotel rooms.
All right. So if I look at that red box on the second column, that's highlighting the hours that the city needs the 30 spaces. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then that's showing that the demand exists for both all uses during that time frame. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
And Scott, because they changed the room allocation count, we're only looking at the parking waiver at this point. Mary?
It comes.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Scott project.
I was carrying it in the beginning, and he helped in the middle, so.
That's why it's,
I can give it to you concisely. Hotel rooms are going down by 15 rooms.
okay.
The unit count at senior lofts is staying the same, but there's a net increase of 14 bedrooms.
Okay.
So the foundation for the 50% parking waiver that was issued was based on studio and single bedrooms. The reason it's coming back to you is because they're changing those number of bedrooms. There's now going to be 36 bedrooms in those 20 units. I think John may have forgotten, but another reason this is coming before you is there was discretionary review for height for the hotel within the form code.
Okay.
45 feet is allowable administratively. 58 feet was approved last April, and they're asking for 1 additional foot to accommodate additional insulation. So they're looking for 1 more foot in hotel height. But what you're looking at is reduction in hotel rooms changes the model for required parking. We have more bedrooms in the lofts. The new traffic study shows that the demand is met across the day without valet parking. So the off-site parking option, which was included in the parking management plan, is no longer applicable here.
Okay. So we have 2 things we have to approve, the revised parking waiver and the additional foot. They're both before us.
They're looking for a continuation of the parking waiver based on the new facts.
It would not be the grant of a new one. Any board members have any questions? Anybody else? No. Anybody in the audience? Nobody showed up? All right. Well, with that, I'll close the public hearing on the item. Thanks. Given the time, we'll probably deliberate on this tonight. So you're welcome to stick around. Thank you. All right, so if we go back to the agenda, we have one item that we can't deliberate on, which is we can't hear, which is 50 Lakeside Avenue, because I understand that Jeff is recused from that. So we have to continue that item.
Yeah, I was just thinking March 17.
Well, if it's on the consent agenda, I don't really have an issue with that. So let's do March 17th.
Yeah.
Do I need to make a motion for that? Probably.
Yeah.
So given that we do not have a quorum on item 20-0674CU, 50 Lakeside, I move that we continue it until the March 17th meeting, provided that there's no issue by applicant as to that date.
Second that.
quorum to even vote on the motion. I'm recused from,
Yeah, I don't know if we can even vote on the motion, but,
Well, I mean, you're not weighing in on the merits of it,
Yeah.
you're weighing
I
in
think we
on
can-
kicking it down the
moving
road
it.
for 2 weeks.
We have to do something with it.
Yeah.
all those in favor? Aye, all right. So we'll continue it to March 17th. If the applicant has a different date that they need to meet, we're happy to accommodate that.
Okay.
No matter how full our meeting is, because we didn't get a quorum. All right, so with that, unless there's no other business, our meeting is adjourned.